All right. Aloha Friday, everybody. We are coming live on YouTube, Parade Deck, LinkedIn, Facebook, you name it. We're out there. And today we're celebrating or continuing to celebrate our Hispanic Heritage Month. I got my brother Cesar from the Navy, and we're going to be talking it up a little bit about his background, what it is to be Hispanic in today's force, specifically the Navy, and a lot of other things that he's got in the hot burner. Folks, thank you for joining us. Before we get into the conversation today, I just want to remind everybody to keep in mind that Maui is still going through. Send your prayers, send your love, send all that you can to help them out as they're going through this period of loss and of property and life. So just to remind everybody. But thank you all for joining us today. Cesar, thank you,
What's up,
brother, for
brother?
joining me, man. And we're going to be talking about specifically you and what you have. But so gracious that our nation has allowed, right, Hispanic Americans to flourish within the ranks of the armed forces and allow their dreams to come, to fruition, because there's a lot of us that grew up, and he's going to be sharing here in the Bronx, in New York City. And hey, we didn't see this coming, right? But I'm going to give you the floor, brother. Welcome to the show. Welcome, everybody that's joining us. Good morning and aloha to you.
Aloha, everybody, and thank you, Enrique, for having me. Like Enrique mentioned, I grew up in New York City. I'm from Dominican Republic. Um, I was actually born and raised in the Dominican Republic, and yes, you're absolutely right, Enrique. It's God's grace, man. That's the best way I can put it. That we have this privilege to serve our country, and at the same time to get to the highest ranks, the possibility and the opportunity to rise to the highest rank. Obviously, with hard work and dedication, but the opportunity, nevertheless, is there for take. So I've been privileged to been serving now closely 22 years, active duty service. I've been all around the world, as you can imagine, in the United States Navy. I don't have my Aloha shirt like you do, but I've never been to Hawaii, and that's one of the places I would like to get to. The Pacific. I've always been in the Mediterranean, but it's been a journey. I joined back in 2000, actually, when the slogan was "Accelerate Your Life." Can you imagine that? I'm the old guy now, as the command master chief. I am the old guy. That's E9 for those of you who are not familiar with the term. However, I'm grateful to be here, and thank you for having me, Enrique.
Absolutely. I was thinking about, hey, how do we celebrate Hispanic Heritage Month, but also include my family, the Navy, and we had connected on LinkedIn a while back, and I saw, that you have your own venture, even in the military. The Optimizer Group, and we'll talk about that here in a little bit. But interesting conversation about what it is to be Hispanic in the military, right? And so I want you to take a little bit of time to just let us in the background of what that looks like for you as a Hispanic in the military and growing up.
Thank you, because there is a stage that was set before I actually entered the military. I grew up with a single mother in New York City, but prior to that, I was raised in Dominican Republic. My family migrated to the States in 1989. I was right around 6 years old, and my mother worked really hard. She worked at a factory in Newark, New Jersey, actually, for $3.25. That was the minimum wage back then. I remember my mother working hard, very, very hard. And one of the things that struck me was my mother was never a quitter. She was a woman who worked two jobs. I was a kid who was very into sports and always trying to find my way through life. And how do I make my mom life better? That was always one of those priorities for me growing up. Going to high school and going to school in New York, you know how it is, Enrique. It could be it'll be challenging, and you grow up real fast. I was an adult at a very young age. I think that sort of set the stage for me for the next step in life, my new season, which was joining the Navy at 18. You know, I tell you a funny story. I went and enlisted. I was already 18. I went ahead and enlisted, and that was on a Thursday. On a Thursday, actually, next Thursday, the 29th, was the day that I went to the recruiting station. The 29th of September, I went to the recruiting station. Next Friday, excuse me. And I asked the recruiter, hey, man, I want to do something with myself. I'm 18. I just finished high school. What can I do? He said, how soon do you want to leave? And I said, as soon as possible. He said, take your ASVAB on Monday and I can ship you out in 10 days. I said, perfect. I went home and I told my mother. My mom did not believe what I was telling her. And she just kept watching her novela. She just said, hey, leave me alone. You know, I'm tired. She was tired from work. I don't want to hear the story, right? Fast forward to the day I was supposed to ship out, which was 10 days later, exactly to the date. I passed my ASVAB and I'm getting ready to ship out. Can you believe my recruiter knocks on the door and says, hey, I'm here to pick you up. My mom opens the door and said, where's he going? And I said, Mom, I told you I was leaving to the Navy. She had no idea. So can you imagine the shock that she was in? Crying. You know, it was an emotional time for her, emotional moment for her. But I can remember that looking back, that was the best decision I've ever made. I made it for myself. It was a decision that I almost made blindly because I had no mentorship, no guidance, which was also what led me to make this decision. You know, I had a little bit of a rough patch at 17. I did some time and I wasn't proud of myself. And looking back at that, it was God's grace who kept me out of bigger trouble. So joining the Navy for me was a way out of New York and a way of you know, away from that trouble and that situation that I could have very well potentially gone down the wrong way. So fast forward, joined the Navy. I've seen the world. It's an adventure to be a Hispanic, but not only to be a Hispanic in the Navy. And, you know, I don't always look at it like that, you know, because I think we have to make sure that we're part of the collective, right? It's not just assimilation to our job and to our culture and what's required for us, but the Navy also has made room and has welcomed me, and my leaders have welcomed me as a Mexican. You know, I'm a citizen of the United States, and I'm proud to serve. And I've served alongside great folks, you know, people from Alabama, Alaska, people from all over the country. So in short, you know, it's been great, but it's definitely been a journey. And I'm fortunate to have mentors from all walks of life. Actually, one of my greatest mentors that I've had was a gentleman from Portugal. And you know, he served alongside me, and he's from Portugal. That's the uniqueness of our Navy. And I'm very proud to say today that from E1 to E9, wow, you know, I can't believe it again. You know, I'm Command Master Chief, a troubled kid from Harlem, New York, Command Master Chief in the United States Navy. God's grace, people. God's grace. Aloha Friday, everybody.
Absolutely. And, you know, we share similar backgrounds, single mom, you know, in New York City, growing up, go through the school system. I did grow up in the Bronx, right? So when I left Puerto Rico, it was 4 or 5 years old. I specifically remember going to, you know, kindergarten, first grade, all that stuff. So my mom left. You say you're the old guy, and you talk about you came in 2000. In 2000, I was in E6, stepping on the USS Iwo Jima as a plank owner, right? So I don't know. I don't know if you want to call yourself an old guy, bro. but similar routes, right? When I decided to go Navy, my mom did know about it, but she did not see me off. She went. You know, the churches have these things called hiras, right? And and she went on a hira somewhere in Puerto Rico and didn't see me off. But you know, and it was that pain of a mother, right? Your mom was crying. I'm sure she was crying wherever she was at that day. But something that you said, you know, you have mentors from all walks of life, my trajectory in the military early on. I remember my first 3 years. It was rough. It was rough because I had that New York slang. I had that that accent that we can't get rid of.
No, we can't.
and it was a little troublesome at the beginning, and I would say the first 3 years. But then after that, I kind of regrouped myself and made my way. But you mentioned the differences in people. One of the greatest things that we get to do as New Yorkers is experience culture, right? We get to experience from everywhere, right? I had Dominican neighbors. I had Haitian neighbors. I had people from Puerto Rico. I had people from Korea. I mean,
Yes.
my building was chock full of nothing, but it
Yes,
was like the UN, really. Uh,
exactly.
and so that really did prepare me for the cultural gathering that the military offers, because first time I saw a Filipino, right, was in the military. But I was also the first Puerto Rican some people saw
That's
or
right.
ever met, right? So it was nice to see that not much had changed in that environment, and so it actually helped out to
It
grow
did.
up in New York and not be so one-sided as a culture, or I would say a people, and then try to go in and be blasted with nothing but color, right?
Absolutely.
But mentors. Let's talk about mentors a little bit, because they do make a difference for those that are out there listening and may not be affiliated with the military. That's okay, because you're going to be in a particular field or whatever it is that your background that you want to choose to dive into, and you're going to find these people, right? And these people are mentors. Mentors in my lifetime have been the glue between chapters in my life. They facilitated me going from one to another. And I don't know how it was for you, Cesar, and I'll let you talk a little bit about mentorship and what it really did for you. But it didn't matter the
No.
the nationality, whether they were from Portugal or mine was from the Philippines, right? And they identify you before you even say anything. They say, you got something, I see it, you may not be there, but let me help you out.
That's right. That's right. Absolutely, Enrique. Thank you for sharing that as well. Thank you for sharing your story there. I want to say, just like you, my first 3 years were a little bit troublesome because you have an empire state of mind, right? That New York mentality that you sort of come into the military with. And I remember my first mentor. He was a first class, Petty Officer Evans. He was actually a young man during when I met him. He was very young. He was one of those guys who promoted very fast. And he said, "You know what? You're a troublemaker, but at the same time, there's so much left in you at the end of the day." And I said, "What do you mean?" And he said, "There's just so much energy left, and we got to do something about that." He said, "Hey, let's start going to the gym together." That was the first. That's how we bridged that. That's how we started our mentorship. Was we started going to the gym because I used to live on the ship, and he had a place. He was more mature. He was in a relationship. He had a fiance, so he had a life outside of the ship. I did not, right? So to have someone look after me and show me the ropes and call my wrongs and highlight my rights and say, "Hey, young man, this is the route that you should go in and invest this energy that you have in things that would pay dividends off in life," set me off on the right path. You're absolutely right, Enrique. So many people are not in the military. Probably they're watching this right now. But nevertheless, if you can find a mentor in your field, someone who can guide you, someone that you admire, definitely respect, will make a difference in life. Once Evans was gone from the ship because he transferred, and I went to another duty station. I sought out another mentor because that was the guidance that I got from my first mentor, was just seek out someone who you admire and that can potentially teach you how to get to the next level. And we did that. We worked together. I found another mentor at my next duty station, and I've done that successfully And I can say I've have a collection of mentor. And today, as a command master chief and E9, the person who gave me my break was a man who, I mean, most disconnected from me. Tall, white, blue eyes, older man from Kentucky. From Kentucky, right? A man who probably can't point out Dominican Republic, Santiago. He can not probably point out my neighborhood on a map. Gave me an opportunity and opened the door for me. And that's another key point about mentors that you highlighted, Enrique, is that they open doors for you. And I cannot thank Jeff Covington, and I'm gonna say his name here, Jeff Covington, my active mentor. He's retired now, but again, it was a person who opened doors for me. But even at my, in my late 30s, I needed guidance and mentorship to get to that next level. And he was sitting in the chair that I'm sitting in now. And now I have the opportunity to call myself a command master chief because of Jeff Covington, who was a command master chief. So yeah, it works both ways, man. There's a lot to learn from people, and they definitely get you to the next stage.
Absolutely. And if you spent any time around the cookie world, and
Oh
for
my
those
God.
of you that
Oh
know
my gosh.
what the cookie world is, if you've been anywhere to the CMC Cobb course, if you've been an SCL or you've been a command senior chief or master chief, and you don't know Jeff Covington, you must have been missing something
That's
if you don't
absolutely
know,
true.
right? But yeah, wonderful human being, great sailor, obviously allowed other sailors to bridge into the community, and what a wonderful heritage to leave behind. Not only that you served in that capacity, but others that were with you are now serving in that capacity.
Absolutely.
There's so many that I could throw out right now, but my active mentors in Triad Leadership Solution, which is my company, you got Jim Hurt,
Oh my God. Yeah, yeah,
and the
yeah.
likes, which dearly loved brother, not only for the Navy, but in my life he's been pivotal. Dwayne Bushy, which is another
Dwayne,
brother
yes.
on my advisory council. That human beings like no other, and I'm sure
Right,
you know Michael Jackson. He was the CMC Cobb course director out there, and did a marvelous job in
amazing.
opening doors for others to Fleet Master Chief John Minyard. Many people know, and so it just goes on. And I even have an Army brother, Boris Bolanos from Panama, and he's been great. And so we can mention so many mentors in our lives
Absolutely.
that have changed the trajectory of what could have been, right?
That's right.
Uh, when you talk about Hispanic American trying to make it in a big world, the chances are stacked against you, right? Or the opposition's already there sometimes waiting for you. But then there are these people that open
That's right.
doors and make it just such a great journey to be on. Now we talk about journey. You don't get to CMC by chance, right? You mentioned hard work earlier on in the conversation. So you got to the highest rank in the Navy, which is an E9. There are other positional ranks for those that are listening, beyond CMC. You can become a force, you can become a fleet, you can become MCPON, right? So
True.
those are positional after you become an E9 command master chief and move on. So how was it getting to E9, and then how was it to get it to CMC?
That's interesting, man, because there was a lot of fights along the way. There was a lot of course corrections along the way. There was a lot of chief intervention along the way, a lot of disciplinary issues along the way. Nevertheless, coming in as an E1 and thinking that you know everything because you're from this big city and that you have the world, on your hands because you've seen it all. I mean, you've seen it all. You've been in the Empire State, like you mentioned earlier. I came in as a bosun's mate. For those of you who do not know what a bosun's mate is, it's the jack of all trades. It's the hardest working person, and anyone can admit that. It's probably one of the oldest rates in the Navy, one of the oldest jobs, positions in the Navy. We're responsible for ship operations, underway replenishment, dropping anchor, preservation of the ship, marine movements, any ship-to-shore movement. That's what bosun's mates do. Pretty much all ships operations. With the exception of the tactical operations that require operations department or navigations department and different departments, right? So we're not launching rockets. That's not what I did. Besides that, I did everything else. So that's a hard knock life. That is the hard knock life as a petty officer third class, petty officer second class, petty officer first class. Climbing through the ranks again was a tough thing. I was fortunate again to have great people coaching me. I had these great coaches, these great mentors next to me, just dropping nuggets. And one of the things that I remember, even before I joined the Navy, was advice that my grandmother gave me. And in Spanish, she used to say this to me: El que escucha consejo llega a viejo. Meaning, if you listen to advice, you will grow wise. And my grandmother used to say this to me. And I think somewhere subconsciously that stayed inside of me. Because even though I was a knucklehead, even though I'm a nonconformist, I didn't conform too well to many things, I was still listening. And I think I listened to the right advice, Enrique. That's very important. I think I listened to the right advice. How to show up, when to show up, what uniform to wear. Make sure that you're squared away, and that your yes is your yes and that your no is a no, that you become a person of character and integrity. And really that's what I became, through all this sharpening, through the sharpening that these mentors did. Getting into the chief world, the CPO world, was a blessing for me, because I did not expect to make chief in 9 years, make boatmate chief, and then to make boatmate senior chief in 14 years. That was a blessing too. It was unbeknownst to me. I did not know that I was trending very fast. So one day I got to this mentor of mine, John Leary, and I sit down with him, and he said to me, "Hey, Cesar, what are you going to do with your brain?" And I said, "Well, what do you mean by that?" He said, "Well, you have a big head. Everybody knows it in the chief's mess. What are you going to do with it? Are you just going to continue to be a bosun's mate, or you want a different challenge in life?" And I said, "John, I'm always looking for a challenge. What are you talking about?" He said, "Well, you need to go into the leadership group. You need to go into the executive leadership group. You need to become part of Command Senior Chief, Command Master Chief program." And I said, "Well, I don't even know where to start." He said, "Show up on Monday, 5:00 in my office, and we'll start." And we did. And John was the first person to introduce me to the Command Senior Chief program, John Leary. Fast forward, I put in my paperwork. I sought out mentors. Jeff Covington comes along and says to me, I'm checking in at the command where Jeff Covington was working. And he says to me, "Hey, boatmate, what can I do for you?" And I said, "Well, Master Chief, there's one thing you can do for me. I want you to take a look at this." And I showed him my personal qualifications. I said, "I want to go for Command Senior Chief once I get your blessings on this." He looked at it. He went to the back of the book where all my signatures were. No kidding, Enrique. He looked at all the signatures and he said, "I know this person. I trust this person. I know this person, and I know this person here." I have 5 signatures there from all the people who has signed off on me obtaining this qualification. He said, "You're ready." He made a phone call while I was standing in his office the day I checked in. He called the detailer and said, "Hey, I'm sending you a package. Expect the package here in the next 24 hours. I got a candidate." That was all she wrote. A man who we've worked in the past together. I mean, everybody knows Jeff Covington, as you mentioned. But for someone to not give me any pushback, no hesitation, understand that I was ready when I was ready. Man, that is it takes vision, first of all, and it takes risk on his part to take a chance on me, a knucklehead from New York, And I think the greatest thing for me was getting into the program, Enrique, was I cannot disappoint these folks. Too many people have poured into my life, even going back to my late grandmother, who I mentioned to you, my mother, a single mom who's worked real hard, my sisters, my family, my wife, my kids, and all the people and all those sailors that I served with up until that point, right? Those are the people whose shoulders I've been standing on. And here comes this giant like Jeff Covington and certifies me and puts me in front and challenges me and says, here you go. You get what you wanted. Now is your turn. And he retired. He since retired, but it's a blessing. And again, that trajectory, that journey, I don't think I was seeing it and I was conscious of it, but other people were seeing it. And I'm grateful for that.
And I can share a similar story as well. Lord bless those that actually take that mentorship seriously, right? Yeah. Those that are there, right? Because he could have took it and looked at it and say, yeah, we'll put you through the pipeline. We'll get you, keep filling up that book.
Right? Slow roll it. Could have slow rolled
it. Yeah, I'll tell you who to go to, but keep filling that book. And and so Mario, my brother, my Marine Corps Sergeant Major brother, says the power of reputation. Right. Let me tell you, that's exactly right. Right. So Jeff knew that the people who signed off on your qualification were solid. They were not going to sign that book unless they thought that you had what it takes. That's and right. Then not only the reputation of those that signed, but his reputation, right? Because to call somebody and say, yo, I'm about to send you something, you know who's sending it, right? I ain't playing. When I send you something, it's good to go.
It's the only email you're getting this year from me.
Yeah. And so if you get one from me, we're good to go, right? And so his reputation to be aligned with the reputation of those that sign and put you, Mario's checking up, and I'm gonna put those things up here because he laughing, right? But
thank you, Mario.
Yeah, and so John Minyard. Let me talk to you. And before John Minyard, Mark Sabal. So you didn't spend too much time on the Pacific, but if there was any two people that ran the Pacific, was Mark Sabal and John Minyard, and them two together, oh my goodness, powerhouse, right? So I get to Hawaii. Here's Mark Sabal. Mark Sabal didn't know me from an egg in the wall over there, right? And he just knew what he saw, and then he says, "Hey, Enrique, you told me you was ready for this, right? This next step." And I was a command senior chief at the time over at Joint Typhoon Warning Center. And he said, "You ready?" I was like, I was afraid to even ask what he was talking about. I just said, "Mark, I'm ready. Let's go." Right? Kind of like you say, "Hey, I'm waiting for a challenge. I just don't know what that means." and he threw me out there and he says, "Meet me at Fleet Master Chief's office." I was like, usually that don't sound too good. But
that's not good. You're going home.
Since it's you, Mark, I'm gonna go ahead and do it because Mark knew, right? He knew what he was putting out in front of Fleet, and then got to talk with Fleet, and the rest is history. I mean, I'm telling you, right? Just like you, Jeff gets on there, I'm sending you a package. Rest is history.
Yeah, and
this is what those mentors do. This is what mentors do. That you mentioned earlier, they open doors.
They do,
and doors that we had no idea
None
what would come
whatsoever.
through, right? None whatsoever. Chris Ayala, thank you, brother, for joining us.
Yeah,
He
Chris.
said, JTWC. That's right, brother.
That's right.
So we're talking about the impacts that these people have on us, and all of the great things that have come up from those points. And man, I would not be the man I am without them. God put them in there just in the nick of time, and especially during times that maybe others did not want you to shine as bright as you could have, right?
That's
Because you're going to get both of those, folks,
true.
right? In life, you're going to get both sides of that coin. And so let me throw these up, and I'm going back and forth. So, there you go. And
Yeah, Chris.
and unadvertised opportunity. You're
That's
right,
right.
right?
Unadvertised opportunities. That's awesome.
so you get through this whole thing. Now you're Command Master Chief. You're coming up 25 years, 27 coming up. You're heading that way. And so what I love about what I've seen from you, brother, is that you did not wait to set up a transition plan. And this is what I'm telling folks right now. If you are active duty, work on your transition right now.
That's true.
After this episode, go out there and start getting with people and start working on that, because it's gonna come. There's no ways about that, right? It's gonna come. But you mentioned, or I saw that you have this entity already,
Yes.
right? And we're gonna talk about that because
Yeah.
that's part of the conversation. The Optimizer Group.
Yes.
So you're bridging early your entrepreneurship route.
That's right.
And I love it. I love it. So tell us about, even in the active duty space, how you came up on that. And I want to put this up because this is one of my mentors. I was just talking about it, right? Aloha. Yeah. Great haircut. John Media, the 15th Pacific Fleet Master Chief. Thank you, brother, for joining us. But yeah, Cesar, tell us about, how do you get that? Because this takes a special mind to start thinking entrepreneurship even while in active duty.
Thank you, Enrique, for highlighting that. Yeah. So for me, I won't say that it was an easy. It was something that came naturally for me. Thank you, Mario. We got the same haircut, brother. I appreciate that. Again, going back to that conversation with John Leary, he says, "Hey, man, what are you going to do with that brain of yours?" And then going back to that conversation with Petty Officer Evans, you got all this energy. What do you do with it after? So much energy left at the end of the day. Seeking a new challenge for me, I don't know if I wake up in the middle of the night and I'm thinking, "Hey, man, this guy wants to go to Mars, but can I go to Jupiter? I'm a Command Master Chief. I can go anywhere." We can go to Pluto. I don't know if it's that mentality, Enrique. In reality, is that nonstop challenge that I seek in life. And I think ultimately what I'm looking is for growth and maturity. Growth and maturity. So the Optimizer Group was, it was something that birthed out of I won't say so much out of necessity, but I think I believe that it birthed because of something that's inside of me that I know that I want to share, right? So what do I do with the Optimizer Group? That's a good question. If you were to ask me, what do I do with the Optimizer Group? Well, now I do very little because I have a full-time job as a Command Master Chief, and I will not ignore this to become some sort of entrepreneur. Okay, so I want everybody to get that clear. I will never, ever ignore my responsibility as a Command Master Chief, as a father, as a husband, to go start a new venture. But I had to look at this in faith and think forward, right? Think forward and start creating a brand for myself, because that's what entrepreneurs do. Ultimately, what you want to have is a successful brand, such as you, Enrique. I look up to you, brother. You were one of the only people that I found on LinkedIn with a nice suit, senior enlisted, man, and this great background, this Miami sort of vibe, Florida. thing going on. I was like, man, that's it right there. I want some of that, So you and many others on LinkedIn inspired me to sort of take on this endeavor and many other things that, I think that can come out of the Optimizer Group. And essentially it's going to be a platform. What I want to do, it's a platform where I get to pour, 25 years, 26 years of experience that I've been exposed to. I think of guys like Jeff Covington, and I'll say this with all humbleness and sincerity. Jeff Covington has made more mistakes in his life, probably, than the things that I'll be able to accomplish, if that makes any sense. Right? That's a guy who I'm not saying that he's some sort of God, but in terms of executive leadership, respect, character, vision, those are things that are admirable. And I, to have a person like that on your corner coaching you makes sense. So why not take all this knowledge, all this energy, and use it for something good and put it out there? So that's what the Optimizer Group platform will eventually become. It'll become my endeavor for me to transition and not, there's this part of us, as you know, Enrique, when you leave this service, you're probably asking yourself, what do you do? I don't want to have to ask myself that question. I think that was very tough for me. I've been so conditioned, and I'll say that with all sincerity. I probably wear my uniform for the next 6 months after retirement. I don't know if that's true or not, but I'm all in, and I'm all in all the time. And that's one of the things about me. And I want this Optimizer Group to take that to be this next season of my life, be all in all the time, and people can use it for that.
Amen. And you're going to transition all that energy. Don't worry, it ain't going nowhere. And you may, and your uniform may become your pajamas for the next 6 months after. So, just in case they call you, right?
Just in case they call me, put me back in, coach.
I tell you, it's one of the evolutions that we go through, right? Some people are quick to push it away. Mine's is ready to go. I'm telling you that right now. So,
hey, Tom Brady did 45 years. I'm trying to do 46. If I can beat Tom Brady, I'm good.
Well, what's wonderful is that you are already adopting the future, right? And so those that excel in anything are able to adopt the future today. Don't have to be in it, right? Because like you say, you're going to be where you are, and anything less would be detrimental to everybody that you're serving. So you're going to be where you are, and you're going to do the duties that you are in right now. But your mind has a space called future.
That's right.
And it's always thinking on it. So I see you. All right, don't get away. I'm coming towards you. But you're not the priority right now. And as leaders, you have to know what's priority and what's not. This particular piece, entrepreneurship, you could do anytime, whether out or still in. But it's good to have that little earmark, how we say, right? Let's put that on the side and say, yeah, I'm gonna show you some love when it comes. But for right now, I know that you're there, and I'm ready for you when that time comes. So let's talk about being Hispanic business, because you already started. You have that on the side. But what are your feelings about the impact that Hispanics have as business owners? Because we didn't see, the most I saw Hispanic business owner was the bodega.
That's it.
I knew Miguel. Miguel had a corner store, right? And that's what. And that where you going, Miguel? And it had a sign. You didn't care about the sign. All you knew is the dude was Hispanic and he owned his own thing. And so we see a lot of mom and pop shop business owners. Great for the economy. We do know that small business ownership is what stirs the money, right? So we understand the importance of small business, but what's your thought in terms of being a Hispanic business owner?
Well, I think, specifically Hispanic, but I will say this in general: to whomever much is given, much is required, right? So when I think of the platform that I've been part of and the opportunities that have opened for me in America, right, in the United States Navy, I think it will be, I don't even know if the term will be shameful to not to do something with this and share with the world. But somewhere along the lines, I think it wouldn't be wise, right? So as a Hispanic business owner, you're right. What we've seen always is mostly the corner store, right? Bodegas or bodegueros. And we always seen our people work the fields. I could tell you my grandfather owned a farm, tobacco farm in Dominican Republic, and he had his own, he used to have his employees, and so entrepreneur has been part of my family for a long time. My grandfather rolled tobacco for a long time, and he let that business go. Thank you, Shelly, for checking in. My grandfather let that business go. So entrepreneurship has always been in my family some way, somehow. It's always been part of my family. So much so that today in Dominican Republic, some of my uncles, they own the Toyota dealers in Dominican Republic. So if you go to a Toyota dealer in Dominican Republic, an official Toyota certified dealer, they're owned by someone last name Rojas. They have that. So I guess for me personally, that comes from generational things and generational carryovers, which are good things. But I think nowadays we're seeing so many opportunities presented to us as people, just as people in general. But what most people are doing nowadays is classifying themselves and categorizing themselves in certain areas, right? And not looking at the whole picture and how we can benefit society as a whole. And I think that's key, right? Because there's so many people out there to be served, right? Whether that's Hispanics American, whether that's Black Americans, whether that's Korean Americans or Filipino Americans, you name it, right? The market is there and people are there. So what I often tell, young folks or even this young generation that I work with is you have to have that foresight. You have to have that vision, but you have to want to serve. And I think it comes from a desire to serve as well. For me personally, it does. I would like to serve a market, even as a Hispanic market, a Hispanic business owner, Latino entrepreneur. Thank you, Michelle. I want to make sure that there's a place for people to come as well, right? A relatable place, and in a place that's available for them. So I think what we need to do is stop making excuses for ourselves. Start breaking barriers so that we can start making space. If you look at barricades, right, whenever you have riots or you're in a security posture, barricades are there to stop, right? What we need to start doing is find a way how we move those barriers so that we can start making space so that other people can flow into the space of entrepreneur. And I see myself as a pioneer, perhaps from the CMC position into the entrepreneur world, right? That transition, that bridge that you spoke of. So if that answers your question, Enrique.
Yeah, absolutely. And, we have to be careful because there is a nature of boxing yourself in.
It is.
Right? It's the nature to box yourself in. The in-kind box, right? Everybody's in all of the same type. And we have to be careful to do that. Not to do that. At the same time, we have to ensure that we serve where we are, right? And I used to say, hey, you want to be a leader, lead where you are. You got the broom. Hey, show me the best leader of the broom. Tell me that instead of telling me what you can do over here. Tell me, show me there. And so you have to understand that in terms of leadership and how you're doing entrepreneurship, you got to do it where you are.
That's right.
And at least influence that community that you're in now in order for you to be able to influence elsewhere.
Absolutely. Because if you can't have your house in order, right, how are you going to go out there and try to lead the world? It's impossible, right? And it's hypocritical too.
And it's embarrassing when you come back and you hear, oh, allá puede, pero aquí no, ¿verdad? Right? That you can do it over there, but you can't do it over here. And that's probably right. It hurts. It hurts, folks. Don't do it. Right. So I'm gonna throw on some of the comments here before we get into the next
Oh
thing.
yeah.
Is that yeah, that's what you got to do, brother. And then Shirley said, "I love that. Yep, make an impact,
Thank
right?
you, Shelly.
Yep. And so thank you all for joining us. All those that are commenting on YouTube, Facebook, on LinkedIn. Thank you for joining us and for commenting, engaging into the conversation. Now, Cesar, we look at the availability of what we can. We're talking about mentorship. We're talking about those that open doors. We're talking about leading where you are. We're talking about our heritage, right? You have entrepreneurs within the lines of your upbringing, your family. So it's kind of knitted into your life. Uh, and there are so many other sailors right now potentially looking at this, looking at this young Dominican coming from the islands and making it big, man, brother. Look, I grew up in the Bronx. I didn't grow up in Puerto Rico, right? I didn't come over after a while. You came and boom. I have a brother named Kofi. I'll introduce you. This brother is an Air Force officer, came from Africa, got a
Ooh.
publishing company, has got a clothing apparel store. He amazing, amazing. And there are some that are coming with that background now, right? 2023, 2024, coming from another place
That's right.
into America and starting out. So they're looking for advice. So from a person that lived that life, what advice can you give them to shorten their pain points, right? Because that's usually why we give advice, to shorten your time and pain. Um, for those that are wanting to do great things in this America, in their new home, come from a maybe not a great environment, right? Maybe impoverished. They're coming for a new way of life. What would you advise them to encourage them to see greater?
Well, Enrique, I think this is very simple, man. Short and sweet. I'm gonna make it short and sweet. Seek, knock, and ask. Right? No one knows what you want. No one knows what you need, and no one knows where you're trying to get to unless you express that. I think it's a disservice to ourselves when we hold back these dreams. And I think this is a very personal question for me. I tell you that because I was one of those. I wouldn't call myself an introvert, but one of those people that guarded my secret very, very close to my heart. And I think that's sometimes a detriment to ourselves when there are people out there that you can express your secrets, you can express your desires of your heart. And those people, again, those mentors, those are the people who know how to get you there, right? Now, that's not for everyone to know. We have to be honest. That's not for everyone to know. But if you have a trusted leader, if you have a person that you see that's doing what you want to do in life, you know, those are the people that I'm asking you to go after. Again, you have to seek, knock, and ask. That is absolutely pivotal when you're trying to grow, when you're trying to develop, when you're trying to mature, when you're trying to accomplish your dreams. Think about this. The most successful men in terms of societal norms, we'll say Elon Musk, right? A billionaire, probably the first trillionaire that we will ever know. Can he get us to Mars by himself? No, he can't. Can he get Tesla off the ground by himself? No, he can't. Can he get any of the endeavors, Neuralink, Starlink, any of these things off the ground by himself? He can't. He had to seek out genius. He had to knock on some doors and he had to ask some people. Even if it's for money, he had to borrow from someone to get those things off the ground. I think sometimes fear keeps us in the back, keep us tied up because we're afraid that someone might know what we're up to. And I think it's a detriment. I truly believe that. So for anyone watching this, whether it's now or in the future, and you're trying to go somewhere, I'm going to leave you with this again. Seek, knock, and ask. and the door shall be opened up to you.
Absolutely. And I had put in the comments, speak. And speak. But sometimes you gotta speak too, right? It's like,
Yes,
hey, I don't
you
know what
gotta
you
ask.
need. You gotta say it, right? So
Gotta say it.
but thank you, Shirley, for correcting that. And it's so powerful, right? Simple but powerful.
Simple.
Take those three things, enact them, put them in your day to day, make them part of what your operating guide for the day is.
That's right.
Because unless you do one of those three things, you're not gonna get it. I have not ever just received something that
That's
yeah, I had to had it made it known. Right
no,
now,
exactly.
now I'll tell you, I did receive things like, let's say, Mark Sabal. Mark, I said that I wanted greater. I necessarily did not ask for what he brought me. So you gotta be careful
What you
when,
asked for.
when
That's
you
right.
make a broad statement like that, because he brought it. But he also knew that what he was bringing, I was capable of, whether I knew it or not, right? Because at the time, I did say, "Man, can I do this?" And then I just reflected back on who was the one that brought it to me, and I said
Mhm.
he wouldn't make that mistake.
There you go.
So he has to know something I don't. So let's go
Right.
for it, right? So and let me throw some of these comments up. They
Yeah.
laughing. Mario laughing. All right, brother, go ahead. Yeah. So fear can be a true hindrance to your progress. You are correct. That's right,
We are
brother.
Chris.
And so here is the leadership side. Now there's leaders out there that are like Jeff, are like John, Mark, Jim, Dwayne, Mike. They're like that. They see it. They say, "This is what you want. This is what you need. Let's get you in operation in the roads that you need to travel."
Mhm.
So, what general advice you can give leaders right now that are in these mentorship positions? Maybe they're doing it right, but maybe there are leaders that are failing in their mentorship capacity because, for one reason or another. Um, Advice to leaders in terms of being a mentor.
I think that's a very personal question. Thank you, Enrique, for framing that. Uh, we've all seen it where there's people who try to give you advice, and the advice is not necessarily for you, but it turns out that the advice is necessarily for them, right? These are things that they need to be working on. I think having that awareness as a leader, I'm speaking to the leaders now, having that awareness of who you are, where you stand, and then when you have mentees, people that are coming to you, you have to really understand and be forthcoming. I think honesty and transparency has been really the thing that has gotten me to the next step every time. Because hey, if you're not ready, you're not ready. But here's how we can get ready. Right? I think a lot of people omit that for the sake of being liked, for the sake of not being harsh, for the sake of coming off as, hey, maybe I don't want to work with this mentor. Maybe I want to substitute. And guess what? If you have a mentee who cannot take the heat, then maybe they should not be in your presence. If you're a person of character and integrity, maybe they should not be in your presence. And I share this. I share this wholeheartedly with my troops. Uh, I'm not for everyone, and I'm not for everyone. I'm not everyone's flavor of ice cream. I get that, but those who come to me and knock on my door and they're asking for advice, you're gonna get 100% truth from me, whether that's good to you, not so favorable to you. However, I am going to make sure in my capacity that I give you what I know to be true, transparent, what is adequate for you. Sometimes we elevate people, those mentees, we pump them up. We puff their chest up, and we send them away with false hope. And I think we have to be careful about that as mentors and leaders. false hope, it's a deterioration to the soul later on. We can't do that to people. We have to be honest with them. And I think it goes back to what you said earlier, Enrique. We have to be able to lead where we're at. And I think that's part of it. If it's a tough position, then lead from a tough position. That's what leadership is, ultimately. You're going to have to make unpopular decisions. And maybe you have to say unpopular things to certain people. But at the end of the day, I'm not a person who's ever concerned with tickling people's ears, man. You're going to hear it from me. And I want you to hear it from me so that you can make decisions that will benefit your life or whatever decision it is that you do. But I want you to know that I'm being transparent and truthful to you.
Absolutely. And false hope, folks, is a mirage that goes away when you come to your senses, right? So Don't set your people up for a mirage that will go away. You tell them the truth, good, bad, and ugly, with kindness. I always say truth without love is just a fact. Right?
Truth without love is fact.
So you can give people facts all day long and not help them, right? So give them the truth, which is fact plus love.
That's right.
Because they're going to need it sometimes. But definitely true. John says sometimes the questions are complicated and answers are simple. Isn't it? Dr. Seuss always got these things right. But yes, coaches and mentors, you need them both, right? I've had them all my life. I've had them from different levels. And I always say, if you're looking for mentorship, then seek it one below. Don't degrade the people below. I'm telling you, there's a lot of wisdom down there. One below, one at, one above, and one at your dream. You got to have these people in place because they will help you out. Cesar, brother, it has been a quick hour.
It is a quick hour, right? It's a quick hour.
But it's been good to host you on Aloha Friday Live, folks. It has been great to have you in the comments. Thank you so much.
Thank the crowd.
Yeah, thank you. Now, I do see a question. I'm going to throw it on here real quick. Okay. What advice can you share with older generation leaders on how not to discourage early career and young adults? It's a challenge, man.
It is, but we always have to put ourselves in their shoes, right? When we were that age and we were hungry, we have to understand that these people are still hungry and they're seeking, so they're knocking. I think the worst thing that we can do is discourage young people, because those are our relief. Those are our successors. Those are the people who will be paying Social Security so that we can rest later on. So remember that, folks, and they'll be selecting your home later on in life. So
always remember that. And I grew up with the saying, of course, biblical, let no one despise thy youth. There is benefit to seeing clearly in the age. We have history to go by, and you got to pair those two. Do not despise young people, because they have solutions that you could have never thought of. I guarantee you that. So, brother, it has been so good to have you. Folks, thank you for being with us on Aloha Friday Live, sharing this with us. I want to remind everybody that we are on the hunt for 500 subscribers on our YouTube channel. Go to @DTLW Podcast, subscribe. Hey, I think I'm 10 from getting to 500.
Let's do it.
10 people can help me out. 10. Cesar, 10 sailors, brother.
Let's go.
And we are streaming live on Parade Deck. If you don't follow Parade Deck, a great platform, you can follow me there at 731, and I would greatly appreciate it. Folks, it has been such a pleasure to have my brother Cesar with us, Command Master Chief currently, future entrepreneur. I'm looking forward to that and this relationship. Aloha Friday to everybody. We wish you well. Be safe. Enjoy your weekend. And God bless.